Hello, grade 11. Welcome back to the channel Science Therapy. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at algebra and we're looking at those question 1. So without any further ado, let's just get right down to it. Okay, so we have solved for x as expected. So let's look at this, right? Now with the first question 1.1.1, if you are given 2 marks and then everything is in standard form like this, and then you can see it's equated to 0, all you have to do, guys, you know that you just take each and every bracket and equate it to 0. No foiling on this part. So all you do is just say x plus 2 and then equal to 0. Then you also take this bracket 3x minus 7 and then equate it to 0. So your solutions will be x is equals to negative 2. And then if you transpose that negative 7, you'll end up with 3x is equals to 7. If you divide both sides by 3, then you have x is equals to 7 over 3. So you have your two solutions like that. Right. So that's all you are required to do for that question. Then let's go to that next one. We have 1.1.2. And then as we can see here, it says correct to 2 decimal places. We said this is a hint to tell us that we need to use the quadratic formula, right? But then before you use the quadratic formula, there's something that you need to do here. First thing that you need to do is take this 2 here and transpose it over to the side so that everything is in quadratic form, right? So that means our first step will be writing this x squared minus 5x and then bringing over this 2 over here, then equal to 0. So now we can agree that everything is in standard form. So that means our a is equals to 1. And then our b is equals to negative 5, and then our c is equals to negative 2. Then we go to our formula, which will always be provided in your formula sheet, so you do not have to memorize this, right? So you will write it like that, and then over, so that's 4ac, and then over 2a, right? Then what do? You just simply substitute where you need to, right? So what is our b? Our b is negative 5, but then mind you, we have this negative from the formula. So we say negative and then negative 5, and then plus minus. So we have plus minus here, and then this is negative 5 and then square. Minus 4, our a is 1 and our c is negative 2, right? Then all over 2 times 1. Then all you have to do at this stage is just punch in your calculator. So carefully punch in your calculator the way it appears, guys. So you want to punch it the way it appears. So let's quickly do that. When it gives you that weird sat form answer, you just press SD and then you write it as a decimal. So that 5.37 is our first solution when we have a plus. Then you're just going to go back and edit. Then you put in minus. Then it's going to give you x is equals to negative 0.37. So these are your two solutions. And remember, correct to 2 decimal places. So everything is in 2 decimal places, right? So all that for 4 marks. So that's a mark for first rearranging it, then a mark for substitution, and 1 mark for finding each of the x values, right? So you have your 4 marks like that. Okay, then let's proceed to 1.1.3. We are given this and then we know it's in sat form, but then we know the key to answering this question is always to first isolate the square root. So if you have a number here, the first thing that you have to do is take the number and transpose it over to the right hand side so that you can have this being isolated on the left hand side. So this is square root x minus 3, and then we're just going to take this negative 4, make it jump over the equal sign, and then we have 5 plus 4. That's going to give us 9, right? Then in order to solve this, obviously we have to get rid of the square root by squaring. But remember, whatever that we do on the left-hand side, we must also do on the right-hand side. So squaring here will just take off the square root, and then we are left with the contents. That's x minus 3. But 9 to the exponent of 2, that's equals to 81, right? So now all we have to do is take this -3 over to that side. So that's 81 plus 3, that's equals to 84. So we only have one solution for this one. So yeah, correct. Then we are done just like that. Then 1.1.4, we have inequality. So these are inequalities. Then all you have to do here is just factorize this, right? So if you can't factorize this, you can simply punch in your formula for quadratic and then look for the factors there. Then we have, if we say this is A, 2, and then this is B, -7, this is C, -4. So I'm just going to go ahead and punch it in a calculator and then say, okay, the B is -7, then plus, so I'm putting it in the quadratic formula. And then my A is 2, my C is -4, then 2A there. So now I'm having my factor as 4, or my x value as 4. So I'm going to write it as a factor like this, x minus 4, right? Because I have +4. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it like this. Then I'm going to change there. And then I have -1/2. So if I have -1/2, this is how I'm going to write it as a fact. So I just start by cross multiplying this. I will have 2x, and then bring over this -1, it will be +1. So as a factor, I will write it like this, right? So once I write it like this, no one would be able to tell that I used quadratic equation. It will just seem as if I factorized, right? So this is just one method to just use if you happen to have numbers that you cannot factorize. Then from here, our critical values, those are the values that we found. So that's -0.5 and also +4. Remember, you start with the minimum value, then end with the maximum value. But because the sign is facing that side, we know when the sign is facing that side, the inequality sign that we end up having is whereby they are separate. So we have x less than or equal to -1/2, or x greater or equal to +4. So note when you have a sign like this facing the other side, then the inequality signs are facing opposite directions, right? So if you want to represent it graphically, this is how it would look like. So you'd say this this inequality is true for values that are outside the critical values, but also the critical values are included, which is why I shaded darker here. Or if you don't want to represent it like that, you can represent it like this, right? So whereby you shade this because it should be greater or equal to 0. So you also include your critical values, because if you substitute in your critical values, you get 0. So that's how you would represent this. So graphically, you would represent either like this or that. And then if you want to just write it in terms of the notation, then you just write it like that, right? Okay. So we are done with that one. We are done. That's all there is to it. Then let's go to solve for x simultaneously, right? Solve for x and y simultaneously. So with this one, we can see that if we say this is equation 1, because they've already wrote it in that form. So this is equation 2, right? Now, remember, I said always choose to work with the formula that is in linear form, right? In a linear equation. So this one, we can see that equation 1 is in linear equation, and here already x is the subject of the formula. So there would be no need for you to formulate equation number 3 here, because already from equation number 1, you have the x variable being the subject of the formula. Now it's just a matter of taking equation number 1 and substituting it in equation number 2 where there is x, right? So that means the expression the expression that we want to substitute for wherever we see x is 2y plus 1, because we are simply saying that x is equivalent to that. So that means, what are we going to write? We're going to say substitute equation 1 into equation number 2, right? So what do? Simply where we see x, we're going to substitute this expression here. So that's 2y plus 1, and then square, minus 2y, then plus 3, and then once again I see x, so I'm going to substitute that expression, 2y, and then here I have this y here. Now note, if I have the 3 here and I have the y here, I can simply take this y and bring it over to this side, right? So let me do that after this. So remember here we need to expand this, so that's 2y plus, and then also 2y plus 1. So the square means we must expand. Then what do we do with the y? We can bring it over here. Then this is 3y, and then 2y plus 1. Right. Now at this point, we can start to do our math. And then we say 2 times 2y, that's 4y squared. And then if we multiply this, we're going to end up with 4y as our middle term. And then 1 times 1, that's 1. Right. And then we have this minus 2y from here. And then if you multiply this, 3y times 2y, that's plus 6y squared. And then 3y times 1, that's plus 3y. Now collecting like terms, we can see it's this and that, also this and that and this, right? So what's 4y squared plus 6y squared? That's 10y squared, right? And then we have 4 minus 2, that's 2 plus 3, that's 5. So we have 5y. And then here we have only this 1 here. So plus 1. And then all that will be equals to, so let's not forget this, we have equal to 6 here. So equal to 6, yes. So equal to 6 from here. Then we have equal to 6. So let's just do it. Let's just bring over this 6 over. So minus 6 is equals to 0. So that means we'll end up with 10y squared plus 5y. And then what is 1 minus 6? That's negative 5 is equals to 0. Now looking at all these numbers, we can see that they're divisible by 5. So we can divide everything throughout here by 5. That means we're going to have 2y squared plus y, and then minus 1 is equals to 0. Now, if we are to factorize this, that means we're going to have 2y, and then we have minus 1, and then also y plus 1, right? So that's how we're going to have it. So our solutions will be y is equals to positive 1 over 2, or y is equals to negative 1. That's if we take each and every bracket and equate it to 0. So these are the solutions that we are going to have. But then remember, do not be carried away. We are solving for x and y simultaneously. So after finding the y values, then you need to go back to that equation whereby everything is in standard form. So this one, equation number 1 would do, and then substitute the coordinates, or substitute the values that you got for y. Then we're going to start for y is equals to positive 1 over 2. Then we're going to find our x value for that. So say x is equals to, where there is y, I'm now going to substitute 1 over 2. Then plus 1. So what is 2 times half? That's equal to 1. 1 plus 1 is equals to 2, right? So that's our x value. Now writing it in terms of coordinates, that means if the x value is 2, then it maps to the y value being 1 over 2, right? And then again, I'm going to do it for when y is equals to negative 1, right? So remember, if I have 2 y values, or that means I also must have 2 x values, right? Then 2 times negative 1 plus 1. So this will give me negative 2 plus 1. That's negative 1 as well, right? So here as a coordinate, I say when the x value is negative 1, also the y value is negative 1. So that's it. And then just like that, you have scored your 6 marks, right, in simultaneous equations. So it's just as simple as that, guys. Do not be intimidated by these questions. Okay, so let's proceed to the next one. We have question 1. It says solve for x for 1.1.1. We are given this, right? So now we can see that we cannot solve this. The first thing that we need to do is arrange it so that it's in quadratic form. So we're going to take all this and bring it over to the left-hand side. So we have 3x squared minus 5x and then minus 2 is equals to 0. Now at this point, if you can see that you cannot factorize this, you still have your quadratic equation. So you're going to go A3 and then B is negative 5. Then your C is negative 2 from this, right? And then you just go ahead and punch it in your quadratic formula. And then now one thing that you're going to do, you're just going to write it in terms of factors, right? So that we do not see that you just use the quadratic formula. So it will be like you factorize, but then you know what you did. Then this is 3. And then we have, so 2 times 3. So my factors, it's giving me x is equals to 2. So as a factor, I'm going to just write it like this, x minus 2. So it's like I'm bringing this 2 over to the side, and then I'm writing it like this. Then I'm changing the plus to a minus. So it's giving me x is equals to negative 1 over 3. So as a factor, this is how I'm going to write it. First cross multiply with this. So this is 3x, and then I'm left with this negative 1. I bring it over. This is 3x plus 1. So as a factor, I'm going to write it like this, 3x plus 1. Now, between me and the learner that factorized, we are all the same, right? So all I have to do now is just write the solutions. X is equals to 2 or x is equals to negative 1 over 3. Then I'm done. Okay, so 4 marks like that, all of it. So it's 1, it's 2, and then 3, 4, right? Then 1.1.2, once again, leave your answer correct to 2 decimal places. That means for this one, I cannot factorize even if I wanted to. So this one, I'm just restricted to using that quadratic formula, right? So for this one, there's no shame in me having to write that quadratic formula, because once they say leave your answer to correct leave your answer correct to 2 decimal places, meant to say, then it simply means that you have to use the quadratic formula. So you just write it, then x negative b plus minus, and then b squared minus 4ac over 2a, right? Then once you have written that, you just come here and say your a, that's your coefficient, it's 1. And then B, it's the coefficient here, it's 2. Then your C is the constant, it's negative 4, right? Then all you do is just substitute in here. So the B is 2. And then once again, you put your B. So that's 2 square minus 4, your A is 1. And then your C is negative 4, right? Over 2 times 1, right? Then at this point, you just want to carefully punch all this in your calculator. So you grab your calculator and carefully punch it the way it appears. Then 2 square minus 4 times 1, and then times negative 4, and then 2 times 1. Okay, so now the values that I have is x is equals to, remember, all you do is press SD after that so that you have your answers in decimal. So that's 1.236. So rounded off to 2 decimal places, it will be 1.24, right? Because remember, 236, the 6 affects the 3, and then it moves to the next digit. And then or, let's now change the plus to a minus. So it's going to be x is equals to negative 3.24 once again, right? Because it's 236. So it's going to be negative 2.34, right? And then just like that, you have your 4 marks. Awesome. Okay. Then let's proceed to this one. So once again, we have inequality. So with this one, it's quite easy to factorize this one. We are looking for the factors of 12. When you multiply them, they're going to give you 12. When you either add or subtract them, they're going to give you 1. So we know the factors of 12 that can do that is 4 and 3. But looking at the middle term, we know that the bigger number must have a positive sign. So 4 is bigger than 3, so it's going to be positive, and then the 3 will be negative. Then just like that. Now at this point, what do? You treat it as if it's an equation. So you'd have x is equals to -4 or x is equals to 3. But then because we are dealing with an inequality, all you have to do is say critical value CV, and then you start with the negative value, the minimum value, then you write the maximum value. Now look at this. The sign is facing that direction. So if the sign is facing that direction, this is the notation that we have. Right. So we only have two notations, as I said. So it's separate. It's like this. If your sign is facing that direction, right? So if this sign is facing to the right, then you end up with an inequality sign like that. But if your sign is facing to the left, then you end up with this kind of notation whereby here you put the minimum value and then here you put the maximum value. Then just like that, you are done. Quite easy, huh? So if you are interested in expressing it graphically, then this is how you'd have it. You put your -4 here and then you put your 3. Then you indicate that the values that satisfy this inequality are the values that are within the critical values. So when you read this, you say x greater than -4, but x less than +3. So that means it's all the values that are in between, not -4, not +3, but then all the values that are within this critical value. So that includes your -2, your -1, your 0, your 1, 2, right? All that. But then it must not be -4, it must not be 3. So that means if you were to come back here and substitute the values that are within the critical values, then you'd get an answer that is below 0 here. We can even try it. Let's try to substitute, for example, 0 here. If we substitute 0 in here, that's 0 squared plus 0, then -12. So the solution that we're going to end up with, because all this will just give us 0, is -12. Now, can you see that -12 is really less than 0? So that means for the values that are within the critical values, the inequality will be satisfied. Right. So if you are to express it using this, then that's how you have it. Note that I'm not shading here. Why am I not shading? Because the critical values are not part of the solution. So if the critical values are not part of the solution, I do not shade these circles. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, then 1.2 says simplify without the use of a calculator the following expressions fully. So now we are working with exponents and surds. So, okay, we have this 125x to the exponent of 7 over x, and then all expressed to 2 over 3. Then what are we supposed to do here? So it's 125x to the exponent of 7 over x. Now, using our laws of exponents, we can see that over here, this means divide, right? If the bases are the same and we are dividing, we know that we are supposed to do what? Subtract the exponents, right? So that means we'll end up with 125 and then x to the exponent of 6. Because remember, this x holds an exponent of 1, and then this is 7 minus 1, right? And then still expressed to the exponent of 2 over 3. Now, because I'm dealing with exponents, this is what I'm going to do. I will try to write 125 in terms of exponents, right? Then this is 125 equal, and then shift factorize, right, from your calculator. So you just press 125 equal sign, then you press your shift, there's a button there, it says factorize, fact. then it's going to write it out as 5 to the exponent of 3, and then this is x to the exponent of 6, and then 2 to the exponent of 3. Now, there's a law of exponent that says you can raise a power to another power. So, for example, if you have this a times b to the exponent of m, you can say a to the exponent of m, and then b to the exponent of m. So you can raise each and every base here to this exponent. So this is exactly what we are going to do. We'll take this 5 to the exponent of 3, raise it to this power. So how do we raise a power to another power? By multiplying the exponents, right? And then also this x to the exponent of 6 multiplied by 2 over 3, right? Now, if we multiply 3 times 2 over 3, the 3 and the 3 will obviously have to cancel. So we are left with 5 to the exponent of 2. Then what about this here? So if we say 6 multiplied by 2 over 3, we're going to end up with x to the exponent of 4, right? So if you just grab your calculator, say 6 times 2 over 3, that's what you're going to get. But then, okay, I do understand that they said without the use of a calculator. So you would say, how many times does 3 go in here? It goes 2 times. And then here, it's only once. So the 2 here multiplied by 2 would give you the 4. So you get how I did that. But then even if you use your calculator, it's not like they'll be able to tell, will they? Then 25x to the exponent of 4. Right. So, yep. And then we have it like that. Okay, then let's look at 1.2.2. So this one is suds. So we have root 3 plus 3 square minus 2 and then root 27, right? Now, one thing that we see with this one is that we have to first expand. So that's root 3 plus 3, and then that's root 3 plus 3, then minus 2. So a way to write this one, remember, we are not using a calculator. So a way to write this one, we know that there is no square root of 27. It's only a cube root, so do not be confused. 27 has no square root, it only has a cube root. But then here we are given square root of 27. So that means we must write this in terms of the factors, right? So 27 can be written as 9 times 3. So 9 times 3 is equals to 27, right? Now, if we deal with this one, this is square root of 3. So remember here we are foiling. Root 3 times root 3, that's 3. Then root 3 times 3, that's 3 root 3, right? And then this times that, that's also 3 root 3. Then what is 3 times 3? That's equal to 9, right? But then this, according to our side rules, if we have side of A times B, this can be written as root A times root B, right? So this is what we're going to do here. So I will say 2 root 9 multiplied by root 3, right? Now, okay, so if I continue with this, this is 3 plus 9, it's going to give me 12. But these are like terms, right? 3 root 3 plus 3 root 3. This is more like 3x plus 3x. It will give you 6x. So this means this will give me 6 root 3, right? Hope it makes sense. Then this is 2, but the root 9, square root of 9 is equals to 3, right? And then I still have root 3 there because this one cannot be simplified. Then 12 plus 6 root 3, and then this gives me what? 2 times 3, that's 6 root 3. Now, do you see that these are like terms? And then they will have to cancel out because this 6 root 3 minus 6 root 3. So I'm only left with what? 12. So that's my solution. Now, if you want to confirm this, all you can do is just punch this exactly as it is in your calculator. And then if it gives you 12, that means you are correct. Remember, you are just double checking. It's not like you are using the calculator. You're only using the calculator to confirm your answer. Right. Okay. Then 1.3. solve for x and y simultaneously. Once again, we can see ukuthi halal hi. So we are given y is equals to x plus 2. This is in linear form, right? This is a linear equation. And already we can see that y is the subject of the formula. That means there would be no need for us to create equation number 3. All we will just do is say substitute equation 1 into equation number 2. So that means wherever we see y, we're going to substitute this expression here, right? So we're just going to go ahead and write that. Substitute equation number 1 into equation number 2, right? So that means wherever I see y, I'm not going to write y now. I'm just going to substitute by this expression. Then this is x. There's the y. I'm just going to go ahead and write x plus 2. Then there's the y again. I'm going to write x plus 2. But then remember the y has a square, so I also need to include that square there. Then minus 10 x plus 1 is equals to 0. We are killing this. We are so killing this. Then this is x squared, then plus 2x. Then here, if we have to expand this, this will end up giving us x squared plus 4x, then plus 4, right? Now, if you are doubting all this, you can start by expanding and then do the FOIL. But then, yeah, that's how it's going to appear. Then 10x, then minus 10 is equals to 0, right? Now, note that you can pause the video and try to do it on your own as I'm solving. Then 2x squared, then this is 2x plus 4x, 6x minus 10x, that's going to give me minus 4x, right? And then, so this like terms here, this like terms. Remember, if you are taking a like term, you need to take it together with its sign. Then we have the 4 minus 10, that's going to give me minus 6 is equals to 0. Now, looking at this, we can see that everything here is divisible by 2. So if I divide this by 2, I'm left with x squared. Divide this by 2, that's minus 2x. Then divide this by 2, that's minus 3. So that means I can now try to factorize this. This is x minus 3 and then x plus 1. Quite easy to factorize that one. The factors of 3 are only 1 and 3. Then x is equals to 3 or x is equals to negative 1. But then again, do not be carried away. We are not looking for the values of x only. We are looking for x and y simultaneously. Then that means for x is equals to 3. When I go back to equation number 1, because equation number 1 has y as the subject of the formula, making it easier for us to use in order to find the value for y, right? So you wouldn't want to come to this one because it's more complicated. Then y is equals to 3 plus 2. Then this is y is equals to 5, right? And then for x is equals to negative 1, then that means you have y is equals to negative 1. So note that in the position where I see y, I see x, I'm now substituting the values that I got. Then negative 1 plus 2, that's equals to positive 1. Now, if I were to write this in coordinate form, so 3 maps to 5, and then negative 1 maps to positive 1, right? And then just like that, you have your solutions, guys. So, okay, that's it for this lesson. Thank you very much for watching the lesson. And then please subscribe and hit that thumbs up button if you are enjoying the lesson. And then bring your friends, invite your friends, share this lesson with your friends, and leave a comment if you still want more of the videos. And you can also comment the topics that you would like me to do. So with all that being said, guys, good luck on your exam. And then, keep on practicing. There is nothing better than just doing your exam papers, right? The key to passing your exam is to practice with exam papers. That's the formula.